Welcome to the Center for U.S. War Veterans Oral Histories at the National Guard Militia Museum of New Jersey in Seagirt, a partner of the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Today is December 16th, 2019. I am Carol Fowler, Director of the Center. My assistant interviewer is graduate student William Elwell of Monmouth University, a museum volunteer his whole college career. Our honored veteran is retired Colonel Michael T. Ruane, who served with both the United States Army and the New Jersey Army National Guard. He served from August of 1963 until August of 1993, and is a Vietnam veteran as well as a Cold War veteran. Thank you for wanting to be here today, Michael. Should I call you Mike?
Mike's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your eyewitness account is considered a primary historical source and a valuable contribution to our Veteran Oral History Project. And good morning and welcome.
Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
And our mutual volunteer, Bob Paracelli, is who encouraged you to sign up.
Yes. Yeah. Bob's a good friend. He got me here after a bunch of years.
Yes.
He was finally able to do it.
We're grateful.
Pry me out of my chair.
Yes, he was, yes. All right, so take us back to life prior to service. Who in your family had served before you?
Well, my family were immigrants. My parents, both of them came from Ireland. And when my mom in 1923, my dad in 1930, so when World War II broke out, they were married for a couple of years, but my dad was working on the railroads at the time, the Jersey Central Railroad. And he was also older. He was never drafted for World War II. However, two of my uncles were. One of my cousins, two of my uncles were in the Army. One was at Remagen, one was at Anzio. My one cousin was on a supply ship in the Pacific. And then after the war, my favorite cousin, who was my hero, joined the Marine Corps. And it was something I always wanted to do. I went to Seton Hall University. ROTC. I graduated in 1963. And even though I was an accounting major, my major should have been ROTC because I wanted to go into the Army. I went in the Army in November 1963. 1 week down at Fort Knox, Kentucky. We were in a communications class, and all of a sudden they came in and they said President Kennedy had been killed. And we thought it was a test or an exercise to see how we were going to react. We did not realize it was the real thing. It was an awakening for a lot of us. I finished ROTC. I finished Fort Knox because I was commissioned as a armor officer. Went to Korea. Spent a year in Korea.
Where in Korea?
Up in Munsan with the 1st Cavalry Division.
Could you spell it?
MUNSAN. I was first assigned to I was supposed to go up to the 9th Cav up on the DMZ because I was a reconnaissance platoon leader. However, the slot was filled, so I ended up in an engineer position for 6 months, and in my last 6 months with the 1st Cav, I was a Battalion S4 with the 15th Armor, 15th Tank. That was a great tour. It was a great tour. Korea was a fantastic place at that time. It was, again, maybe 10 years out of the war. The people were industrious. It was building up. Seoul was a beehive of activity, and the Korean people were some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. Plus friendly, at least friendly to us. Because we had a couple of guys who used to hang around together. Myself, another Army lieutenant, and a Korean lieutenant. So between the three of us, it worked out pretty well. We had our own translator, which is a good thing about it. I got back from Korea in, I guess, close to April 1964. I was assigned to a tank company up at Fort Devens, Massachusetts. The company was B Company, 3rd Battalion, 77th Armor, as the company executive officer. Platoon leader and executive officer because we're short of officers there. I got married at that time. Got married in July, and then in I guess, I forget the exact timing of it, but sometime that summer, it's either June or July, I became the company commander of again, a tank company with the 77th Armor up at Fort Devens. In September, early September, they told us that the Army was forming up a new unit. It was going to be the 196th Light Infantry Brigade. And the 2 infantry battalions that formed up the 2nd Brigade, 5th Mech, that was the unit that was at Devens. The 2 infantry battalions were shipping out to Vietnam, and they were going to take the tank battalion, which was the 77th Armor, and they were going to use that as a cadre to fill or to start up the 196th Light Infantry Brigade. I went out in the field one day, again as a tank company commander, and I came in as the A Company Commander, 3rd Battalion, 21st Infantry.
Where was that?
That was up at Fort Devens, Massachusetts.
Still there?
Yep. I knew very little about infantry, and all I knew is that we had about 3 weeks to get prepared because we're going to be getting a couple of hundred recruits into my company. It was bringing in close to 4,000 draftees, trainees, volunteers up to Fort Devens for the 196th. So I had A Company, 3rd and 21st. I had a bunch of tankers. I had some brand new OCS second lieutenants. We were all finding our own way about infantry tactics and so forth. So we were maybe about a week or 2 ahead of the kids when they came in. The Army had changed a little bit at that time. You weren't allowed any physical punishment for the draftees. However, we had one sergeant, my mortar platoon sergeant, a guy by the name of Sergeant Kronk, and what he loved to do, the first time he had his recruits, his 30-some-odd recruits, he had them bow their head for 30 minutes in silent prayer for the sins they were about to commit. So he got his point across pretty well at that time. We trained these kids up, and it was really exceptional because it was one of the first of the train and retains where you're training your people and you're going to take them into combat. So you spent a little bit more time, you cared a little bit more about how they were trained and what they did. And it was exceptional in a lot of ways. The good part was you knew your people, you knew their families, you knew an awful lot about them. You knew who could stand under stress, who could do this, who could do that. Bad part about it was that when they started getting wounded or killed, you knew their families, you knew them. You knew them maybe sometimes a little bit too much. We trained the kids up. A Company 3rd, 21st. I feel proud about the fact I was still an Armor First Lieutenant, and our company was the best company in the brigade in many categories, both rifle firing on our field tests and everything else like that. And every other company commander was an infantry captain. So, to me, that was a source of pride. But it was not so much me as it was the lieutenants and the NCOs I had underneath me that were really very strong, really cared about the people. On July 15th, my 24th birthday, we sailed out of Boston Harbor to head to Vietnam.
64?
64. I remember my wife bringing me into the battalion headquarters with my son. My son was 3 months old at the time. My oldest son now. What all the kids I got. But brought us into the battalion. Everybody mounted up in the buses, headed down to Boston Harbor. There was 2 ships, the Patch and the Derby. We were on the Patch. 2 battalions were on the Derby. Our battalion and another battalion was on the Patch, which was a it wasn't a merchant marine. It was a Navy ship, but it was a transport. It was a troop transport. So was
that unusual to go by sea?
Yes, it was. Most units, I don't know how the first Cav went over there. They went over in Toto, and I think that they flew over. But we went over by boat.
I never heard that.
Yeah.
Did you go?
That's for twice.
Yeah, we were known as the boat people, among the 196th Brigade forever after that. It took us 30 days. Halfway through the trip, we ended up in Long Beach, a naval base in California. We got a letter of commendation for our exemplary behavior there. Mm-hmm. And that included great brawl in the senior NCO club, where Army senior NCOs and Navy senior NCOs proceeded to get into a disagreement. And when the shore police came to arrest some of the people, one shore policeman walked in there with a billy club in his hand, and one of the Army command sergeant majors told him, "Son, if you lift that one more inch, you're going to eat it." And they turned around and walked out, and the NCOs took care of the problem all by themselves. There was shopping cart races in the middle of the BX parking lot. There was guys hitting on everybody they could. No one went AWOL. That was the greatest part about it. No one went AWOL. Everybody boarded ship again. Myself and a couple of my officers, we snuck off post in a taxi cab. We had our military uniforms on, and we had civilians underneath it. We snuck off post in a taxi cab, had a couple of beers, came back on post again just to say we could do it. So we ended up heading over there. The trip was interesting. It was pretty tough. It was pretty tough on the kids because down in the holes there were 4 deep, sometimes 5 deep, or stacked, 5 deep in the bunks. Wasn't too much room for them. The officers and the senior NCOs were a little bit better, to be 4 to 6 in a room. An interesting thing, over as we're passing north of the Philippines, we hit a typhoon, and troops, they were up on the front of the boat, and as the wave would wash over the front of the boat, it'd come down and wash them back. And all of a sudden, they found out this was too dangerous, and they locked everybody below decks. They wouldn't let anybody up on decks after that. We landed at Vung Tau. I think it was about August 13th. Not certain about the exact date.
Would you be able to point that out?
Wait, didn't you say somewhere else you landed?
Well, Vung Tau was where the ship, there was a port. So that was where the ships went. And then in Vung Tau, they took us to the airport. From the airport, we took air transport up to Tainan.
All right, so can you spell Vung Tau?
Yeah, VUNG TAU.
Okay, so let's swing over to the map.
Okay. Vung Tau is probably right down here.
Okay.
Matter of fact, it is. It's right here. You can
I see it, yes.
Yeah, that's where it is. That was actually an R&R site also.
And then also Tainan, you said?
Yes, Tainan. Tainan is located right here.
Oh, yes. So you took a truck there?
No, we went up by plane.
Oh, I see. What were your first impressions of landing in Vietnam?
The smell.
Right.
Smell was like Korea.
The weather?
Well, the weather was hot and sticky. I mean, it was weather at the time we landed in. The equivalent of summertime was probably about in the high 90s. Very humid. There was a smell off the patties, and which is I call it almost like the smell of the Orient at that time. It was the same smell that you smell in Korea, because they use human excrement for fertilizer.
How was morale?
Morale was great. Morale was great.
And it wasn't a hot zone where you were landing?
No, not where we were landing. Where we landed, there was a band met us, so it wasn't a hot zone. There was a band that met us. Well, it was a rest and recreation site. It was an R&R site.
Oh, you said that, right?
Yeah, and it hadn't really built up much yet, but there was a band that met us. So the area was secure.
Early in the war, right?
Yes, yeah, and. The night before, we pulled in at night, and we disembarked in the morning. But the night before, you could see the artillery going off in the distance. You could see the flares from flare ships and other stuff like that was happening. So we knew we were getting into the war zone. It was just a matter of, when. We disembarked. There was a small airport there. We got on the planes. I believe there were C-123s, and we flew up to Tainan. Seton at that time was, they were just starting to establish the base. The 25th Division had one of their brigades up there, just securing it until we got in and we could set up our own security. It was nothing but flat manioc fields. It was level...
What kind of fields?
Manioc. It was like tapioca. It's it's a
it's a crop.
yeah, it's a crop and it's big in Vietnam. Yeah. So what you had was manioc fields and just termite. Trying to figure out piles. I mean, these things were 5-6 feet high with termites and everything else. We're living inside of them. You know, they may be about 3 or 4 feet wide.
I don't understand.
It was like a hummock. Okay, and what it was, because it was so much rain. Okay, they built these the insects. They built these termite nests inside these big mud piles. And when we got up there, we had to clear the fields in order to level everything out. And the tents we're living in GP, general purpose medium tents, and cleaning out the area. And what you have to do with the termite piles is you get a bunch of C4 and you jam it into it, and then you set it off, you explode it. But you had to stay fire in the hole, because when that thing exploded, you'd see snakes twirling through the air. You'd see critters flying this way and all sorts of insects all over the place. Yeah, it was interesting. It was fun trying to figure out how many guys were taking bets as to how many snakes would come out. How many dead snakes would come out of which termite. But we ended up creating our base camp. Cleaning the field, setting up bunker lines, putting in barbed wire, putting in claymore mines, etc., setting up our defensive positions. We did, for the first month or so, we did very little extensive patrolling. It was just learning about the base camp and about the area. You go out maybe a mile or two, a couple of miles, nothing too much. As time looks like your crew's coming in.
Okay.
So when we think we're going to go into concrete bunkers, man, I'll tell you, the pucker factor was up. And when we got there were termites, the termite mounds, termite hills. So everybody sighed of relief, packed up, and went back home. So it wasn't bad at all. Yeah.
Were you with anybody you knew? Did you have a buddy?
Are we back on again?
Yes, we are.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, the closest one I know is a guy. He was that was in another battalion. His name was Richie Krisnamwitz. He was 2 years behind me at Seton Hall. He was the 106 recoilless rifle platoon leader. I did not know he was there at the time. I didn't find out until I transferred into the 4th and 31st. But in the beginning, when we first set up, like I said, it was all small actions. It was, we go out and get shot at a couple of times, or maybe a guy or two get wounded or something else like that, but it was nothing really big. That went on, I think, with I was still A Company, 3rd, 21st at the time. And I think about the biggest action we had were maybe about a half an hour or so. And it was nothing big, just sniper firing, and he kept us pinned down as we were maneuvering around. And we finally got him out of there. He didn't kill any of us, didn't wound any of us. We didn't do anything to him. But it was just something that just kept us busy for a while. In October of 66, I got, we had a new, my battalion commander, I switched places. I ended up going to the battalion S3 operations. I was again a first lieutenant armor, and there was an infantry captain that needed combat command time, so they put him into the slot. So I flew with the forward air controllers. I ended up going in with the Pathfinders on various missions. Set up a lot of the defensive positions that we had when we keep strengthening your defense. And it was a great assignment. It was a great assignment. Had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun flying with the pilots because they're nuts. You had 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid. You're giving them a Huey helicopter, and you're saying, "Man, you could do 130 miles an hour," you know, and you're flying nap of the earth, and you're literally sitting there, and it's just exhilaration.
And it feels better than the humid ground, right?
Oh yeah, well, I'm not walking.
Right, and that too, right?
I'm not walking, you know. It's not bad at all. And then, you know, a lot of my friends before and afterwards thought I was a little crazy because I transferred to the infantry in Vietnam. And the reason I did, because I love the infantry. I love tanks. I love the power. I love the machinery, you know, the 50 tons that you had underneath you. But there was something about the infantrymen when I was training the troops in Fort Devens and then later at Camp Drum before we shipped out overseas. There's just something about the infantryman and what he has to go through that won me over. And when I had the opportunity, I switched over in Vietnam, and it's a decision I never regretted at all. I was with the Battalion S3 Air, like I said, for about 2 months. And then around Christmas time, '66, between Christmas and New Year's, the word came through the grapevine, because again, I was with the brigade from when I first started. I knew all the officers and NCOs, and the word came through the grapevine that there was a company in the 4th or 31st where the company commander was being relieved. And I knew the battalion commander.
Do you know why he was being relieved?
Yeah, incompetence. He got a couple of guys shot up pretty badly, got another guy killed.
Oh.
He was relieved. I went in, I saw the battalion commander, and I knew him. He said, "Hey, Mike, what are you doing?" I said, "I'd like to talk to you." And he said, "What?" I said, "I understand you're going to be relieving Izzy." That was the guy's name, Captain Izzy. And he said, "How'd you find that out?" And I said, "Well, sir, I got, you know, sergeant majors and the NCOs and a couple of the officers told me that, you know, he's not really doing the job." And he said, "Why, what's up?" And I said, I'd like to go back out to the field." He said, "You've already been out to the field." I said, "But I hated staff. I mean, I loved what I was doing, but I hated staff. I wanted to be out with the troops." So he gave me the company. And on January 6th, I took over Charlie Company, 431st. And that was the beginning. Charlie Company was, morale was pretty low at the time. And it's funny, my radio operator that I got was one of the first people I met there. The guy's name is Greg Kitchen. He has turned into one of my best friends. We've been best friends right now for over 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I know that name. Did I read that name?
yes, you read it in there. Yes, Greg was the RTO, and right after we had the change of command ceremony, I said, "Come on, Kitchen." Yeah. I said, "You're my RTO?" He said, "Yeah." And the driver said, "Come on, let's go get a cup of coffee." So we ran down to the village, the town of Seton, to one of the cafes down there, and I just sat down. I said, "Okay, fill me in on what's going on in the company." And the reason is, you know, he was tied into the officers and the NCOs because he was the company commander's radio operator, but he's also tied into the enlisted guys that are down in the squads and the platoons. And if anybody has a feel of what's going on in the company, it's the company commander's RTO. So he was filling me in on it, and morale was not great. Within my first month in the unit, I ended up relieving one platoon leader and a couple of NCOs who weren't doing their job. Matter of fact, the platoon leader, we got him court-martialed. I guess that was in the January time frame. I forget when the hell I go. When did I go in there? I think it was in February. We're doing a mission, a security mission, at the base of a mountain up there known as Nui Baden. Nui Baden was a Black Virgin mountain.
Could you spell that?
Yeah, N-U-I, B-A, and I think it's D-I-N. It was Black Virgin Mountain. It was almost like Ayers Rock in Australia. It was a real anomaly. The land is flat for miles and miles and miles and miles around, and all of a sudden you have this mountain that comes up out of it. There may be a picture of it in some place around it in some of the things I have. But so we're doing a security mission up there, and we're screwing around with the 50 caliber machine gun. I had a 50 caliber machine gun in my company that I traded for. Someone found it loose, and we found out that by giving someone a 45 caliber pistol, we could get a 50 caliber machine gun. So we thought that was a good trade. It was a very good trade. We're messing around with that and firing up at the side of Nui Baden because we controlled the base of it, the Army. The VC controlled the middle of it because it was all full of tunnels, and Special Forces had the top of it where they had a radio station, and they were securing that. And I got wounded with some shrapnel, so I ended up about a week and a half in the hospital. But after that is when we went up to C-Zone, where we went out on an operation called Junction City, and that was up in right along the Cambodian border. And our field company, normally an infantry company has about 145 guys in it. That's what we're supposed to have, someplace around that. Which you had platoons were about 45 people each. However, by that time, with people that you had on R&R, people you had wounded, people who were sick, you normally would go out in the field with any place from 25 to 30 guys. So you're down to like 2/3 strength anytime you went. And I know when we went out on this mission, we went out with 110 guys, and 3 weeks later we came back with 68. We had we ran into a couple of things. One of them is what I mentioned when I gave you the after action report there. We were up in C-Zone. We knew there was a base. It was almost like a hospital complex that the VC had, and we were looking for it one day, and one of my platoon sergeants, a guy by the name of Felicimo Hugo, was killed, and two of my guys were wounded. Hugo, believe it or not, was a guerrilla for the United States in World War II in the Philippines, and then he came to the States and he joined the Army.
Was he Filipino?
Yes. He got killed. He was an exceptional platoon sergeant. Exceptional platoon sergeant. He got killed, and a couple of the guys got wounded. We don't know if we killed anybody in that action. That action only maybe about a half an hour or so. I guess the next day or the day after that, B Company went in to try and find out what it was, and they got shot up pretty badly. And then the day after that, they sent us back in again to locate them, because now we pretty certain we knew where the base was. And this was one of the things I was proudest of my company, because I tell you, we cut out probably about 4 o'clock in the morning, and we were moving. If the base camp, I almost have to show it, but if the base camp is in the center of the picture, we're down at the bottom of the picture. We had to move east a couple of miles. I had to move north a couple of miles and west a couple of miles, and then we're coming into the base camp from the north, because the 2 days before is when B Company, when they went in from the south, and the time before that we were trying to come in from the southwest. So I figured out, when they gave me the mission, I told them, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go around and hit it from the north. Hopefully they wouldn't expect us. We moved out, and I tell you, it was the best my company ever moved. The guys were so silent, it was unbelievable when we were going through the brush. And we came in on the base camp from the north, and we get into a pretty good knockdown drag out. The after action report can tell you a lot more about it, than I'm remembering right now. I'd have to read through that one more time. But once again, when you're rolling through the jungle, you can't see too much. And we were going through in 3 columns, platoon. I think it was 2nd platoon. Then it was my headquarters. Then the 1st platoon and the 3rd platoon. So we're coming in on the base camp. I moved one of the platoons up, so we had now 2 platoons online and the 3rd platoon's behind us. And it's a good thing about it because the 3rd platoon reported that they heard firing and they were going to open fire. And the thing is that we were what they were going to be firing upon. So we're able to hold off on them. And I think that's in the after action report too. But we went into the village and it's funny how your mind plays tricks on you, but I remember for years I thought that we were in there for hours. That we're in the middle of the firefight for hours, and it turned out that it was only maybe 45 minutes to an hour that we're in there, all told, from the minute the first round went off to the last round. Well, the last round didn't go off for a while after that. Greg Kitchen said that him and I should be dead about 7 times if it wasn't for a matter of inches or a matter of seconds. This time here, we're both there, and all the crap's going on around us, and all of a sudden Greg goes, "Hey Mike, we're a little bit too close together." He said, "Suppose you go this way and I go that way." So I'm holding on to the phone, and I'm talking to one of my other platoons, and we moved, and right about then a line of machine gun fire came right down through us, so we're lucky on that. And all of a sudden I'm there just a couple of seconds later, I'm talking on the thing again, and Greg's right behind me, and all of a sudden I'm talking. "Hey Greg, check the radio out. I lost, look." And all of a sudden, what we found out was that a round had come right through here, because he was right behind me, and took off. I'm like this. The round went through and took off the antenna of the radio. So that's why we're having transmission problems, because we didn't have an antenna.
Did you have a backup antenna?
Well, yeah. Well, you carry backup for everything.
Right.
Carry backup for everything. I know that, like I said, I was a company commander. My headquarters group, there's normally myself, my 2 RTOs, Greg Kitchen, he was from Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut, and it was B.J. Benoit from Chicago. Greg was my battalion RTO, very smart. I never had to do anything. I mean, unless I had to talk to battalion, he was talking to battalion all the time. He was filling them in and passing the information on. So a lot of times I was talking with BJ on the company net. And then I had my RTO, my forward observer guy by the name of Jack Kaminiak. He lives right now out in East Windsor. And his RTO, Joe Kobieski was his name, big Polak man, I tell you, strong as a bull. And he was Jack's RTO, and then I had my comm sergeant. So we had maybe 6 of us. So when we moved into something like that, okay, the platoons are up online, and we're in the middle of it. We're doing air cover, because the VC used to like to put people in trees. So we take them out of the trees, okay? And this is the only time I know that I killed someone, because in this action, I'm like 95% certain I killed 2 of them out of trees. I know that Kitchen, I think Greg had another one, and BJ had a shotgun, and I'm pretty certain that he pulled someone else out of a tree too. What I carried over there, like most of the guys, I carried an M16. And the reason I'm saying this is because in this action, there was an awful lot of firepower, an awful lot of bullets going out. I was a company commander. I was supposed to carry a 45. I threw a 45 away. I carried an M16, and I carried about 20 magazines, about 18 rounds in each magazine, plus I carried another 15 or 20 boxes of ammo in my rucksack. I normally carried 4 frag grenades, maybe 4 smoke grenades, and then normal water and the other ash and trash that you normally carry. My machine guns carried any place from 1,500 to 2,000 rounds per. My grenadiers, the M79 guys, I told them I wanted 50 rounds, so they'd have them in vests, or almost like Pancho Villa type style things, When we came out of that action, I was down to, I think I was down to a magazine and a half left. The 20 boxes I had already been distributed out to the guys. The machine guns were down. It was probably the heaviest action that I was ever involved in. And when, I guess when we were coming out, we went in and we took out the base camp. I had 4 guys killed up there. I had, the after-action report said there was 4 wounded, but there was probably about 7 or 8 wounded. Some guys were just nicked and scratched. There was 4 wounded, a couple of guys pretty badly. When we came out of the base camp, we finished destroying it. You know, the bad guys had pulled away, and we started blowing stuff up, and then we started pulling out. They came back in after us again, and pretty much followed us all the way out to where we started evacuating, where we had to evacuate our dead. We had to carry them out. We found a small clearing, and it was like an H-13 and small helicopters. They were able to land. We were able to strap the dead into the seat, and you know they were able to pick them out. One of the seriously wounded guys, we literally had to blow an LZ. We used to carry det cord. Everybody carries det cord. It's nice to blow things up. You know, we'd wrap it around the tree, set it off, and blow the tree down. And we were able to blow a big enough area that a Huey could drop its basket down. And he couldn't land, but he could drop the basket down. He ended up dropping the basket. We strapped our guy onto it. We were lifting him up. All of a sudden, the VC took the Huey on the fire, and Huey jumped, and we found out later on, I believe it was the pilot or the co-pilot, got shot in the leg. I think he lost a leg. We put him in for the Silver Star. You know, brought the guys out. We went back in, I guess the 5 or 6 miles, whatever it was, back to the battalion base camp. Got in there. Battalion commander pretty much told me, you know, relax, you guys aren't going out in any big missions. All you're going to be doing is platoon ambushes, you know, for the next couple of days anyway. And our second platoon at that time was down to 11 guys out of 20 something that they started out with. And so we're doing ambushes. That means platoon-size ambushes going out, maybe 1 or 2 platoons each night. And we had what we called the monkey ambush. And again, another thing about the training and the fire discipline of these kids, they were out about a mile and a half, 2 miles away from where the base camp was. And all of a sudden I get a call in, Slugger Charlie 6, that was my call sign, Slugger, yes, Charlie 6, this is 2, this is 6. I got some noise to our front. Roger, can you tell what it is? No. How far away? Looks like it's about 100, 200 yards, but it looks like it's approaching, coming towards us. Roger, keep me informed. A few minutes later, it's closer. Okay, can you tell what it is yet? No, can't tell. But I'll tell you, it looks like there's a lot of movement. And here are the 11 guys, and we've just been in 2 heavy actions within the past couple of days, and I'm smiling because of the outcome of the thing. They ended up 2. This is 6. This is 2. I can't talk much. Okay, use clicks, because we used to use clicks. You know, squeeze the mic, and 1 is for yes and 2 is for no. As I call them up. Are they on your right? Click. Or on your left? Click. Okay. Are you in front of you? Click. Holy Christ. So now we're waiting. Now we're waiting to hear weapons go off and everything else like that. All of a sudden, after about 5 minutes, I get a call. I'm cranking up the company. I mean, I've already told the other guys, okay, told my XO, I said, get him cranked up, we're getting ready to go out, Willie's about to get hit, you know. So we're all ready to push out of the perimeter. 6, this is 2, this is 6. Don't worry, there were monkeys.
Oh, many?
It was a bunch of monkeys coming through the trees and the other stuff like this. We call it the monkey ambush.
Oh, through the. Oh.
And the guys, and the greatest part about it, the guys never opened fire, never blew claymores or anything else.
Oh,
like that.
you said that.
Yeah. So that was to me that was pretty cool. Anyway, we came in.
Talk about a test.
Huh? Oh, it was funny. I mean, it's funny now. It wasn't funny if you were out there.
I was not expecting that.
Waiting to find out what's coming in at you. Well, we ended up when we went back into base. I just remember I told the...
So they were small, right? Not as big as a person. They were
No,
just-
we don't even know what size they were. We just know they were monkeys.
Oh, because you could hear the talking, like the noise they make.
Yeah, that was about it.
Didn't the veterans there? Didn't they keep them as pets?
Not in my company.
Oh, okay.
Not in my company. No, no, we didn't have them. We had like a little baby deer and a couple of dogs. That was about it. Yeah. But the when we went back in, I told the XO, I said, he went in a day ahead of time, and I said, fill up every rain barrel we had in the company with beer, booze, and soda. And we got back in. We stood the company down for a couple of days. I remember I liked Jack Daniels, so I knew where I was. The XO was taking charge of the company. Everyone else, man, they were just sitting around doing nothing. And I remember one morning, after about the second day, when we're getting ready, because now, okay, guys, time's over. Let's get back to what we're doing. This guy Wagner was one of my mortar platoon sergeant, big sucker. I go down to the latrine, and there's Wagner right there, brushing his teeth and washing it out with Johnny Walker Black. So it was a good time. There was some good times. There really were some bad times, but there were some good times. So we were back in for I guess maybe for about a week until we got a bunch of new people in, and then we went back out again. But the time that we're in, we lost one guy, and this was one of the toughest things that happened to me. The kid's name was George Hulse, and they're on the bunker line. So you figure out we're back in. Hey, fine, shouldn't be any problems at all. The bunker line duty is pretty easy because the base camp was pretty big, and the VC didn't do much. They mortared every once in a while, but that was about it. And Hulse and this other kid were out on the bunker line, and all of a sudden I got a call back at the company CP. It was in the middle of the afternoon that Hulse had been shot, and I went rolling out there with the Jeep, the kitchen, and apparently Hulse and this kid, who was a brand new kid, one of the new guys that came in, one of the replacements, were screwing around and pulling on a rifle, and the kid didn't have the rifle on safe, and the rifle went off and caught Hulse right in the face. And I remember he was still barely alive when I got there, and when the medics weren't there yet, what we did, we put him in the back of the Jeep, and I was holding him. I was holding him in my lap. And I was holding the back of his head, trying to hold it together, and it was like bone, gray matter, and brains and everything, and blood and everything else like coming out, and he died, before we could get him to the hospital. And I remember that's probably one of the toughest things. That took me years to overcome that. Was could I have done more? Could I have changed something, or whatever else? But I remember that used to get me for dreams and other stuff like that.
It was so shocking and unexpected and unnecessary.
Well, it's all unnecessary. Everything over
Well,
there,
yes.
everything over there was unnecessary. But this was something that was stupid.
Yeah.
He'd come out of some heavy firefights, and all of a sudden he gets killed by an accident. By some kid that didn't have the weapon on safe. But from there we ended up. I guess that was towards the end of March. And then in April, we're getting word that we're going to be moving up north because the Marines are heading up into Quezon. So we were going to move from Tainan up to Chulai.
Okay, so first let's look at what you were talking about, the Cambodian border.
Yes. Yeah, this map doesn't show too much, and I was looking for maps that I could bring in, but when we were at Tainan, where we operated was all up along the Cambodian border.
Does that mean that they were more well supplied?
With the VC?
You weren't really supposed to be going.
No. Well, we never went across the border.
Oh, okay.
However, our artillery used to fire across the border because they'd be telling us what they were doing. So we'd be operating all up in this area, up in here. Against the unit was the 9th VC Division, and we had, we had some firefights with them. We were defending a special forces camp up in, I believe it was Preklock, and special forces had a camp there. And so we're around the outside of the camp, and we knew, and the special forces told us there was VC in the camp. So when we're securing them, so we're around the outside, it was like the berm, and we're down here at the bottom of it, with my company area around here, and the rest of the battalion spread around the area. All of a sudden, we started getting some heavy fire coming in from the jungle. And while we're getting heavy fire coming in from the jungle, and we're responding to it, firing back, it wasn't really doing any damage to us or anything else like this. All of a sudden, we started getting fire from the berm, from the VC that were in Special Forces camp. So what I literally I had one of my machine guns do nothing but all they were doing was clearing off the top of the berm. You know, they just kept firing across the top of the berm, and it was, you know, all of a sudden it wasn't any more fire coming from out of there. But I felt sorry for the Special Forces guys because they knew that they had VC right in their midst, but they didn't know who they were. And so that was,
okay.
Yeah, because it was a Special Forces camp. You know, there was a couple of, probably about 200 or 300 Vietnamese popular forces or whatever you want to call in there. And all you needed was, 5 or 10 VC, and it could cause a hell of a lot of problems. Another short story, but in that, when we're up there, again, securing Preklock, my company was sent out on night ambushes one of the evenings. And so you set out after dark, and we're going to set up for 3 ambushes, 3 platoon-size ambushes. However, when you go through the jungle at dark, especially when it's thick and it's heavy jungle, it's pretty hard to see and to keep control. So you literally almost standing right behind each other. Good news is you know where you're going. The bad news is, you make a good target if anybody wants to shoot because everyone's close. But what happened was that we got a little bit separated. So one of my platoons went, and actually one of my platoon and a half went, and half of the platoon, less than that, was probably about 8 guys, and my company CP were in the middle because the other platoon was back here. So now we had a reinforced platoon in one ambush, a reinforced platoon in the other ambush, and 8 guys and my company CP in by ourselves. So here we are hunkering down. Okay, everyone's okay. We can't afford to mess around and move around at nighttime. So we hunkered down. Everybody's lying down. You got your grenades out. You got your weapons out. You can put your claymores out and everything else like this. And all of a sudden we start, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. You start hearing something moving. You don't know what it is. Can't figure out where it is. Pucker factor goes up, and I don't know if you know what the pucker factor is, but anyway, that's when the cheeks of your butt slammed so tight together that you can't split it with a chrome-edged razor blade and a 10-pound sledgehammer, So all of a sudden the guys were nudging. And can anybody hear what's going on? And you could just hear a little rustling. Just like a little rustling. And went on for a few minutes, and all of a sudden we figured out what it was. It was literally almost like an army of ants.
What?
Army of ants. So it was maybe about
ants?
Ants, just ants, maybe 2 inches wide, just moving from point A to point B. Point A to point B. It was an interesting place. It really was. And nothing happened. Morning came. Everybody packed up again, and we went back to the base camp. But it was just like another incident of something strange, out there. Nothing but ants.
You didn't have bug spray, I guess.
Oh yes, we did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had bug spray, but they didn't climb on top of us or anything else like that. They were on their own.
Like those red ants that bite you?
Oh, I had an incident with them once. Yeah. But no, these weren't the red ants.
Oh. Okay.
These weren't the red ants. Thank God they weren't the red ants. Yeah. We would have really had a tough time.
Right. Trying to stay quiet, right?
Well, we had we pretty much finished up our stuff down in C-Zone and down in Seton, and then we flew up to July.
Yeah, the 196 was ordered north. Joe Bilby said
Yes.
his experience with your unit was west of Saigon. Operation Attleboro? He thought it
Attleboro,
might
yes,
be.
yep. Attleboro's when I was a Battalion 3 Air, when I was in the A Company, Headquarters Company 30, 21st Infantry. That was Attleboro. That was the first big, one of the first big operations of the war. And it started, well, Junction City was probably the biggest multi-unit, but Attleboro was one of the ones that kicked it off. Like I said, I was a Battalion 3 Air at the time, and it was a real screw-up. It was under the command, the whole operation was under the command of the 196th Line Infantry Brigade, a general by the name of Desesseur. He was an artillery general. His nickname was Death for Sure.
Oh,
He
not good.
He had, there was a Colonel Malloy who was with the 27th Wolfhounds. They were from the 25th Division, but they were attached to the 196th for this operation. And when they got out there, he attached other units to him. But one of the things the command in the military is normally 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. You know, one commander can control 3 units up to 5 units. Normally no more than that. And Desesseur had kept pushing in infantry companies to support this mission, and all of a sudden Malloy's ending up with 12 battalions under his command. And there was a lot of guys got killed and wounded on that thing because it was a complete cluster, complete screw-up. Desesseur was relieved by Westmoreland after that. So he... Yeah. Yeah, that was Operation Attleboro, and then after that came December. That operated, I guess, October, November, or around the November time frame in '66.
You were ordered to commit 2nd Platoon a rifle platoon for the mission to install a village chief loyal to the Arvin government.
Well, that
Or the
was
South
yeah.
Vietnamese
That's what happened up at Chulai. That's what happened up at
So
Chulai.
is that what you were
Yeah,
saying
that-
earlier, that are we ready to move up? to
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Right, all right, so show me, I guess you flew, right?
Yeah, we flew from Tainan, and we flew up to Chulai, which is all the way up in I Corps, or First Corps. And we ended up at the Chulai. Chulai was a huge airfield at the time, Marine Corps, Marine airfield, and we landed there, and we moved about maybe I'm looking here, no, probably about 5 miles, 10 miles southwest of the Chulai airfield, and that was where our battalion headquarters was. That was the small map that I gave you. You know. And then from there, we moved out to Charlie Company's position out on the South China Sea. Yes.
It's in a different language, I can't.
Yeah. But anyway, if this was, so Chulai would be up here,
Okay.
where Mike is. Okay, Mike's at Chulai. Okay. Down here was there was a river, and we crossed the river, and this is where the 4th and the 31st headquarters was, and they had Delta Company remain there. B Company was located out here in the center of Thunder Road. That's what this road became known as. Then A Company was down here. They called that Purple Heart Hill. And then we were at the end of Thunder Road, Charlie Company, and they called it Paradise because you're right on the South China Sea.
Okay,
Good?
yes.
Okay. So we're right up. So when we went in there, we spent one day with the Marines. The Marines had a rifle company up there, and we spent one day with them as they were telling us about the area and what to expect and so forth. And then the following day, they marched out to the Chulai base. What was interesting is that when they were going out the gate, they were turning in their M14s because that's what they were using at the time, and they were picking up M16s. So they were giving them a rifle and five magazines of ammunition, and the guys had never fired the weapon before, which I thought was gross incompetence on the part of senior leadership. They should have left them with the M14s until they got to a place where they could, train them how to use the weapons that they had. They left, we took over. I don't know about the leadership of the Marines and or the leadership of the company commander whose place we took. They used to just take their garbage and throw it over the side of the hill. So we had rats. What they considered a bunker was literally a couple of sandbags, 2 poles, and a poncho. So we had to rebuild the whole defense line around there, rebuild the trench line and all the bunkers. I was a firm believer in if it's not nailed down, you take it. I used to literally fine my platoon leaders and platoon sergeants and myself, everybody, give a certain amount of money in after every payday, and then I'd send my Greg Kitchen, my radio operator, one of the other operators into Chulai base because Army guys could drink hard liquor at 18, Marines couldn't. They had to wait till 21. So we went and buy a couple of cases of booze. Then we go around and trade, 2 bottles of scotch for an M60 machine gun, stuff like that. My concern was that I was way out at the end of Thunder Road. There was no way that anyone was going to get to me in a hurry if we got hit. And I know that I was only supposed to have 2 81 millimeter mortars in my company. I had 3. I was not supposed to have a 60 millimeter mortar. I had a 60 millimeter mortar that I traded with the Special Forces. 45 caliber pistol for a 60 mortar. I had the 50 caliber machine gun I told you about. I had extra generators. Whenever we fired a fire mission, a mortar fire mission, I'd fire maybe 20 rounds on the fire mission, and I'd tell the battalion I fired 60. So I'd get 60 rounds of ammunition back. The top of the hill that we were on, if it was probably an ammo dump. We had more mortar ammunition buried there. And for instance, when that platoon got hit and my mortars were laying up illumination rounds for an hour, and that's 3 rounds every minute. So you're talking 60 times 3 is 180 rounds. And we still had plenty of illumination rounds left over. We could have fired for another half a day, just about. It was just something I felt we needed. So when the guys went in, they came out with all the stuff that they had, and we distributed it around to the various bunkers we had. We had 13 bunkers on the bunker line. The bunkers facing the VC area. I'm going to take that other map I have right now, the company map, and I think this is. Nope. Is it the picture? No, it's just.
In here?
It's the picture. Just want to orient myself. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is the South China Sea. Okay, and this was Charlie Company that we showed on the map, and then back up here would be where Chulai base was. As you can see, the area around here, the Marines have done a good job of cleaning out the area, so it's wide open. So we had bunkers all up through this area, and in each of the bunkers, especially the ones that were facing out towards the, away from the sea, we tried to have a machine gun in each one of them. So we had a machine gun in each one of them. We had a couple of cases of grenades and a couple of cases of machine gun ammunition, as well as claymore mines. And each bunker was almost like triple sandbag. They were a lot different from the bunkers that the Marines had left behind. As a matter of fact, if you get a real close-up, you can actually see the bunker, you actually see the trench line on it.
Is that a cliff going down to the sea?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they call it paradise because there's a trail down around here that what I would do when we had the opportunity, have one platoon, seal off the area, and then the guys would go down there and swim. And then later on, there was a village over here. We just went down where the village was, and the guys would just swim there. As a matter of fact, we had a surfboard. And I think guys got some great pictures of the guys with sitting on a surfboard in South China Sea.
Surreal, right? Yeah.
Yes. It was almost like Apocalypse Now in a couple of ways.
Right.
It's okay, Carol?
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Okay. With the what we did up at Chulai was a lot different than what we did down at Tainan. Tainan were a lot of multi-battalion operations, the division operations, brigade operations. When you went out in the field in C-zone, you usually went out as a company and fought as a company. The only small units were when you had platoon-size ambushes. And at Chulai, it was a lot different. It was a lot of company. I had my own area of operations that I had to patrol, and I'd be patrolling all the time. And sometimes we do company operations, but it was primarily platoon-size and squad-size operations. The South Koreans were just below our area, and the South Koreans were pretty much, if anything moves in their area, they shot it. So whenever they were on an operation and they were sweeping towards the sea, the bad guys would either come north or south to get out of the area. When they came north, they came into our AO. So then we'd have increased action when they did that. Interesting part, our company, Charlie Company 431st, lost more guys, or as many guys in 3 months at Chulai than we did at 9 months down at Tainan. The biggest action we had there was the village of Vung Tuong. We had, again, we were hearing, this was in May of 67. We've been hearing about a lot of reports about the VC coming in. The 48th VC Battalion was going to be coming into the area. They were the ones that had fought the Marines there going back in, I guess, 1965, 66. And they were coming back up to reclaim the area. Apparently they wanted to test the Army to see what we could or what we couldn't do. And what I had set up at the time, even before we got this intelligence information, was trying to set up a pacification system in the villages. So I was going to be assigning a platoon to a village, and we'd go in there with a rifle platoon, secure the village, conduct med caps, which is bring doctors down to treat the kids and treat the villagers. Try and reinstall the legitimate South Vietnamese government there. And it was bought by the battalion commander. The battalion commander gave me the permission to do it. So we ended up sending the 2nd platoon down there, which was my best platoon. And they were down there for a couple of days. They were reporting stuff back saying that the villagers are telling them that the VC are in the area. We're also getting intelligence reports that the VC were going to attack my company position because I had some artillery. I had an artillery unit up there that was supporting another operation in another part of further south than us. And the thing was, okay, it looks like they were going to try and get the artillery pieces, and we couldn't confirm it one way or the other as to whether it's going to be the village or it's going to be the hill. So this was another thing, and I'll tell you about this in a couple of seconds. But so he got the call. I guess Willie's platoon was out there. He had one platoon out on ambush. One squad out on an ambush. I had my 3rd platoon, which is in the AO, the area of operations. It was maybe 1.5, 2 kilometers away from where Willie's platoon was in the village. And then I had my last platoon up on top of the hill. My 1st platoon was on top of the hill in the company AO with my mortars. And all of a sudden, we got the call that Willie's platoon was being hit by a big force. We didn't know what it was at the time. And down in the village, Willie had 9 platoons, nine bunkers. And when we got down there, 45 minutes later, 35 minutes later, I think there was only, 3 bunkers had already been wiped out. Out of the 26 guys that Willie had down there, there was 5 killed, 17 wounded. There was only 3 guys walking around. We came in, we covered that 2 miles from the top of the hill down to Willie's platoon in 35 minutes at 4 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark. I mean, we were moving. I told my point squad, a guy by the name of Joe Eifrate from up in North Jersey, a kid from North Jersey, I told him as his squad gets hit, he's taking care of it. We're going right by him. I mean, he's on his own. And we rolled into the village probably about 4:30. And I just remember the smoke was probably about 4 feet off the ground. Again, it was almost like a scene from Apocalypse Now. Smoke is like 4 feet off the ground. There's red tracer going in, green tracer coming out. Green tracer was the bad guys, red tracer was ours. You hear people yelling, screaming, grenades going off, flares going off at on high, which all of a sudden the light's coming down to the ground, so you see all the different colors and everything else. And it was almost like a slow motion. It was almost, I almost felt like I was running in slow motion. And I know that when I got in there, I was almost crying. I told Willie I couldn't get here. Sorry I couldn't get here any sooner. Sorry I couldn't get here any sooner. And it was just a horrific sight. I mean, there was bodies, there was dead VC, dead Americans. There was place was just blown up, and you can read about it in the thing because their headquarters, like at a temple, an old Buddhist temple, and that was pretty much blown apart. One of the village chiefs was killed. We had a couple of VC prisoners. I think 1 or 2 of them were killed at the same time. I know that the terrible part about it was the fact that the division commander, not my battalion commander, Colonel Smith was my battalion commander. The division commander would not let us go back into the village, keep the village, because we're trying to pacify the area. We're trying to get the people to trust us, to believe in us. And now all of a sudden we were there for a few weeks. All of a sudden this crap happens, and now he's not going to let me put another platoon in the village. And the thing is, we lost the trust of the villagers. We lost the trust of the villagers in that area for the rest of my time over there, which is like a couple of months. So it was
Because they lost their protection?
because we pulled out. Because we pulled out, we left them there. We were there saying, "Hey, we're going to take care of you. We're going to offer you protection. We're bringing the government back in, and so forth and so on." All of a sudden, one big thing happens, and all of a sudden they pull out. But we found out that we shot the hell out of the bad guys. That there was at least 40 to 50 of them killed was the information that we got back. So we lost that part of it. I guess we had a couple of other things happen there, but it was just like the small stuff, just shoot and runs type thing. They'd shoot at us, we'd shoot at them. We had one sniper. He was a lousy sniper, but he was not on our side, on their side. So what he'd do, he'd fire a round, and we tell at our company base camp, I told everybody, okay, the rounds aren't any place near us, but everybody duck. This way here, he fired the round, everybody duck. And because if we just kept walking around, the guy think, hey, his aim was off, so he'd readjust his sights, so maybe he'd get the right range, and the right elevation. This way here, he may actually hit someone. So if everybody kept ducking every time he shot, he's not going to change anything, so he's not going to hit anybody. But it was, I guess, my last day there. I had my company commander who was going to replace me had come in, and another interesting story on this guy. He was fresh from the States, never been in. He was a captain, infantry captain. Never commanded a company before. He was gonna replace me, and there's always a change in inventory. You turn over, okay, I have this, okay, and I was short one what they call anti-intrusion device. It was about as big as a pack of cigarettes, and it was a thing that you string out, and it had a noise or light detector. Okay, so or not detector, but alarm. So you'd string it out, and if something broke the string, okay, either the light would go on or the alarm would go on, depending which you had it set for. And so we had a couple. We used to lose them all the time because they're a piece of garbage, really. They weren't much good because water would actually set them off. So anyway, I told them I was short one of these, and you never tell everybody all the stuff you have hidden away. You always tell them what you're short first, and then you start negotiating, position from there. And he said, no, gee, I don't know if I can sign off on that because, I'd have to pay for it. And I said, don't worry about it. I said, I already got the Battalion S4, a guy by the name of Dave Decker. I said, Dave knows I'm missing it. And he said, next time out in the field, just write it off as a combat loss. We'll take care of it. He says, yeah, I don't know. I said, well, then I'm going to have to get rid of some of the other stuff I have to try and find these. What do you have? I got a 1.5 kW generator. I got a 50 caliber machine gun. I got 5 M60s that I'm not supposed to have. I got a 61 mortar. I got an 81. He said, never mind. So he was happy. He was happy to get what he had. When I transferred over to the company, I guess, what was it? I guess he was with us for a week. And all of a sudden, this one night, we got the thing. We had to go back out. We thought they were saying that the 48th was coming back in again. Some units of the 48th VC were coming back in. We had to... we were going down to set up a blocking position outside of a village, try and get them when they're coming out of the village at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. So we got down there, we're hiding, and so there was a cemetery. So we're in the cemetery and spread around, and I just remember I was behind the burial mound with kitchen, and all of a sudden they sprung the ambush on the VC. And we had a little bit of shoot around for a while. We got 2 or 3 of them, and they wounded 2 of my guys, which wasn't bad, So the guys weren't wounded badly either, which is pretty good. So we're starting to clean up the area. Daylight's coming, we're cleaning up the area, and all of a sudden we discover some tunnels. And I started sending my tunnel rats down to find out what they were. But they were very extensive, and I couldn't handle it myself. We didn't have enough explosives. So I called Battalion, told them about it, and they said, hey, okay, don't worry about it. We'll send engineers down there later on today. Oh, by the way, Slugger Charlie 6, you're going home. And I proceeded to sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic over the Battalion Command net. And I went back up to the hill. I remember packing up my stuff. We had the change of command that afternoon, and as I'm getting ready to go into Battalion, all of a sudden I got the call from Greg. He said, hey Mike, they want to see you down at they need you down on the beach. Need you down on the beach. What's up? I don't know, but they're calling for you. So I hop in the Jeep with Greg, rolling down on the beach. They grabbed my ass and took me and threw me in the South China Sea, which is pretty cool.
That was your going away party?
That was my going away party. Yeah, and I mentioned it. He said, Mike, we were Greg and Mike after the first week or 2 that I was, and it was just something that formed up, just very, very close relationship, exceptionally close relationship. He had his act together, and he was a fantastic soldier. So I was very fortunate with the guys I had over there. Had some real strong guys. That thing in the village, Willie got a Silver Star out of it. One of the other guys, Green, got a Distinguished Service Cross out of it. It was, and I guess that's why Jim Humphreys wrote it up in the magazine. So.
You and Greg were never out of touch since then?
No.
It's amazing.
No, right now still we get we'll get together maybe every 2 years. We have the 196 reunion, and just my company alone, the guys that I served with, that I fought with, I'll have 10, 15 of them, and they still buy me beers, which isn't too bad, And
you're lucky.
With Charlie Company, we had 25 of us there this year when we're in Chicago.
That's good. You can still get around and travel
Yeah.
to those.
Should you hold it up?
You want me to hold it for
Can you hold
you?
it?
Yeah, sure.
You tell me where you want me. Put my fingers and take my fingers away from you.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great picture. Okay.
Yeah.
And what about this one? That's you, right?
Yes, yeah. That's me on the left. That's Greg in the center, and Pop Trimble is the old coot in the left on the right.
It's funny how you kept saying kids because you were like an old guy, right? In your 20s,
Yeah, yeah.
mid-20s.
I was 24. I was 24 at that time.
Any questions? Who are these guys who you were pointing out?
Oh, the one on the, that's Jack Gominiak. That's the my forward observer. We used to call him Mumbles. He was, he almost like mumbled when he talked. But I tell you, he was a fantastic, fantastic forward observer.
And the other one?
The other one is Jimmy Williams. That was the platoon leader that was down in the village.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a great picture.
yeah. He lives out in Oregon right now.
Oh, okay. I love how you
haven't
keep
spoken
in
with him in
touch.
about 2 or 3 years. He made it to one of our reunions, which is good. Where do you want to go from here?
You did an amazing job covering Vietnam, unlike anything we could have pulled you through.
Blew all my questions out of the water.
Yeah.
Blew all my questions out of the water.
Usually we ask what was your mission and things, and how was morale, and did you get packages from home and things like that.
Morale was. I'll tell you another thing. And again, a lot of the guys are draftees. They were from the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. They were from the New England states and then New Jersey, especially around Harrison, New Jersey area, Jersey City, Hudson County, and I guess maybe Union County. In my neighborhood, I lived at 66 Bidwell Avenue, Jersey City. Okay, my brother John. John's best friend, my next door neighbor, was Jack Short. He lived at 68 Bidwell Avenue. Across the street lived Guy Myers. He lived at 65 Bidwell Avenue. And another block or two away was a guy by the name of John Kopek. Now those three and my brother were together all the time. When I got wounded in February, okay, same time I got wounded, Jack Shaw was killed. Okay, Guy Myers was wounded, and John Kopek was blown out of a Jeep. And it was like a bad week. It was a bad week for Bidwell Avenue, in Jersey City.
True.
But what was interesting with Kopek, he was an MP, and he was a little bit of a wild guy too. And one time he was down in the village, and this is when I was still with A Company, 3rd to 21st, so still with the 21st Infantry. He was caught down in the village in a place where he shouldn't have been, House of Ill Repute.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And the MPs broke in on him. MPs that he knew, his own MPs broke in on him, and he pulled a pistol. And so the platoon leader, who didn't like Kopek anyway, was bringing him up on charges for drawing a weapon and attempted murder of an MP. And Kopek, when he was going to be court-martialed, asked me to defend him. Okay, so I defended him. And the main thing, I got him off. He got busted in rank because I said, okay, if you're in a whorehouse line with a woman and people break in the door, what are you going to do? So he said, you'll pull the pistol. So he did, and so I got him off. I got him off from a court martial. He got busted. He lost a lot of money and so forth and so on. John died. He died last year. Yeah. About 4 years ago, I called him up because I was trying to get together with him and my brother, and Kopek. I offered him. I said, "You want to stay out of the MPs? Come on out with me. Come on out with me to the rifle company." And he said, no. He said, I like it in here better. So about 6 months later, when I was with Charlie Company 431st, we had a chaplain come out. Chaplain was coming out to see the unit. Okay, so he's going to stay overnight. So Kopech was there, and John and I are talking, and I said, hey, John, you know, it's still, I said, the offer still stands. I said, you only got about a month or two left. You want to get away from where you are? He said, come on out with us. And he said, no, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it, but I'm not. So about 4 years ago, when I called him up, he said, hey, Mike, you remember the time that you said, you know, when I was out there with the chaplain, and you said, hey, if you want to come out, you know, you'll take care of me for the last 2 months? He said, I want to tell you something. I looked around at that shit that you guys are living in. And he said, I was not going to give up a warm shower or a good hooch or anything else to come out there with you guys. And he said, I want to tell you something else too. He said, you guys had a reputation. You guys had a reputation of being a badass company. And they said, you know, and guys told me that not only a badass company, but a badass company commander. And I never heard that before, never heard it since or anything else like that. But the thing with the company, with the guys, because morale was really good. It really was.
Awesome.
We were very lucky. We're very lucky. And had some good platoon leaders and good NCOs were able to take care of the guys.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I wanted to ask you, as you told your story, it sounded like you were proving yourself there to others. Whatever your actions were being noticed and recognized, and I guess I gleaned that from the one who got let go because he was incompetent.
Yeah.
And then you stepped up and said, you know, you would take on that role. And it didn't you get that impression too?
I also got the impression that, does this partially come from being trained as an armor commander and then moving into infantry?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the armor training put me in good stead with the infantry, because I'll tell you, I could read a map any which way, because we moved at 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, rather than 2.5 miles an hour. I could read a map, armors, the armor handles missions differently. In the infantry, they give you a lot of detail for a mission, for an order, for a mission. You know, in armor, they tell you, here's what I want you to do, here's the parameters, here's the timelines, go do it. You know, and there's more mission type orders that you work on your own. And I think that's one of the things that really helped me an awful lot in the infantry. Because and my battalion commanders were good to me, especially Smith. You know, Colonel Smith, he was the guy that when I was up at Chulai, he believed in his unit leaders and let them do what they were supposed to do. You know, a lot of times battalion staffs have a tendency to, you know, come down on the companies and put a lot of requirements on the companies. He used the staff to support the companies more than anything else. And that was good. He came out with us. I'll tell you, I love the guy because he came out with us on a mission. Came out to check out and went out with one of my platoons on an ambush mission one night. I'll tell you, I didn't see my other battalion commanders do that, but he did. Yeah. He was a good man.
Right.
He was a good man. Total respect for him. Yeah.
Do you know anything that happened to the company after you rotated home, or?
Yeah. Like, I keep in contact with a lot of those guys. That's why I think I was telling you before that one of, first of all, the company commander replaced me, was relieved after a month, and another guy, I think Jack Long, came in after him. I met him. I'm trying to figure out, there was one of the reunions, we literally had 5 of the company commanders, the Charlie Company there. Frank Pierce, which was one of the first company commanders, then when he got shot, he lost his leg, and Izzy took over from him, and I replaced Izzy. Izzy wasn't there, no one's going to talk to Izzy. And then the guy that replaced me wasn't there, but like 3 of the other company commanders after that were also there. So it was interesting, the 5 of us talking together with different perspectives.
It's history.
Yeah, it really was. And I got the list of all the guys. I got the list of all the guys that were the company commanders and when they were. Yeah, he was relieved. The next guy came in, did a very good job. He was well respected. Matter of fact, one of the guys who is now retired colonel, guy's name was Ed Griffin. He was a platoon leader, came in after me, and he became a chaplain. I mean, he's a minister right now. He was telling me about the guys that came in after that. one of the things was, and I mentioned it to you, that when Willie's platoon was hit, the VC had an ambush set up for myself, and the guys were coming down off the hill. They thought we were going to be coming down by a road, and they were getting ready to ambush us on that road, but we didn't.
Oh, right, you said you didn't use roads.
Yeah, we came straight through the bush.
The rice paddies, you
Yeah,
said.
right, straight through the fields and the bush. So we're lucky in that respect. That guy's name was Mel Moyet. He said, he thanks me for keeping him alive because he was in the 1st platoon. He was one of the guys who was coming down off the hill with me. But that was pretty much it. When I know that when we're down at Tansanut, getting ready to fly out. I mean, we're drinking beer down there, waiting to go. Then all of a sudden, we all go to bed. We get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and tell us we're going to fly out. And then all of a sudden, the plane was delayed. We started drinking again. Started drinking beer, and myself and a bunch. It was probably about 8 guys, officers and senior NCOs from the 196th, most of whom I knew. And we sat around and we're starting the table. We're starting to build a pyramid of beer can. And we walked out when they finally got us, and we got us in the buses to take us out to the airfield. I mean, we're on the second L of mellow, and like one of the guys said when we got off the bus, one of the NCOs just said, "Man, don't let him mortar us now." As we're getting on the plane, it's all the hell we wanted to do. And the kids coming off the plane that were looking at us like, "Whoa, who are these guys?" Yeah, it was pretty interesting. But yeah, I got back to the States. I went to Fort Monmouth.
What was your homecoming like?
It was quiet. It was quiet. We came through. Well, first we landed at Travis Air Force Base, and then from Travis we traveled over to San Francisco Airport. And again, it was about a half dozen of us traveling together. So no one's. I mean, we didn't see too much at that time.
This was when?
67. It wasn't crazy at that time, and we had about a half dozen guys traveling together. No one's going to mess with us anyway. We're just another bunch of military guys going through an airport. I know I ended up at Monmouth simply because they offered me. I was supposed to go to Fort Knox, Kentucky, because I was an armor officer, but I ended up. When I went in to talk to them, they said, "Hey, you're no longer armor, you're infantry, so you got a choice. You can either go to Fort Knox or we got a spot in New Jersey, Fort Monmouth, New Jersey." I never heard of it before. And I lived in Jersey, and I said, "Well, I'll take New Jersey." I said, because, my mother had cancer, and she'd had a massive mastectomy when I was away, which she didn't tell me about until almost I was coming home. When my wife, I met her in Hawaii, my wife told me. So I picked New Jersey, so that's how I ended up at Fort Monmouth. That's how I ended up here, in New Jersey. But I ended up at the school brigade there, and it was interesting. Again, I was going to be a career officer at the time, and when I came back to Jersey, I was supposed to be an instructor in the signal school, and they had plenty of instructors. And I called Washington and I said, "Hey, I'm not going to be an instructor. They're going to put me as a company commander." "Oh, thank you very much, Captain. We'll get back to you. We'll let you know what we're going to do with you," because they had told me I was, going 3 years, 2 years in the States, maybe 3 years in the States, and back over to Vietnam. Okay, fine, no problem. That's the way things went. And about maybe a week after I told them that I'm no longer a teacher, they said, they called me up and said, "Oh, well, you're probably going to be going back to Vietnam in 8 months." And I said, "Why?" I said, "Because we need people with your experience." I said, "Wait a second." I said, I just got home. I knew I was going to go back from 2 years to 3 years. That's what you guys told me. I said, "I just bought a house because I couldn't afford the rents around here. They were gouging us." And I said, "My wife's pregnant." I said, "Can't you hold off, at least for the 2 years?" I said, "No, Captain, you don't understand. We need you over there." I said, "Why? We need your experience." I said, "Well, let them get experience the same way I got my experience. I got mine on the ground, on the job training." And they said no. And I said, "Well, you don't understand." I said, "I'm voluntary indefinite. So I'm going to pull the plug. I'm getting out." And I did. I got out in July 68. Yeah, that was it. And then that was it. about a year or two later, I met a guy in Campbell's Junction, a guy by the name of Joe Graney. We sat down and started talking. He was in the National Guard. I was getting a little bit, maybe I want to go back in. Went down, talked to the people down in Red Bank Armory, and signed up for the National Guard. So I spent 5 years in the National Guard as a battalion maintenance officer, tank company commander, and a headquarters company commander. One of the things, and I tell people, one of the things I'm really proud of is that I had about over 8 years of company command time. Between active and the reserves, I was actually in a reserve unit for 7 months after I got off of active duty, and then in the National Guard.
Let's cover all the locations where you were while a guardsman.
As a guard? In the Guard? Oh, weren't too many. I was Red Bank, I was a battalion maintenance officer with the 4th and 102nd Tank. Then I became the B Company commander up at Woodbridge, the armory up there, up at Woodbridge. And then I came back down to headquarters company down in Red Bank again. So there wasn't any really big change. It was all with the 4th and 102nd. Then the 4th and 102nd became the 2nd and 114th Infantry. And I ended up as a headquarters company commander with the 2nd and 114th.
Fort Dix was after you left the Guard?
Yeah, that was with the reserves. I was with the reserves almost Fort Dix for years, except when I was a battalion commander.
While you were at Fort Monmouth, did you know Melissa Ziobro?
When I worked there? Oh, yes. Yes.
It's his professor and,
Really?
and my friend, yes.
Well, Melissa and I knew each other at Fort Monmouth, okay? She is also, I'm heavily involved with InfoAge, and Melissa is on our marketing committee. Matter of fact, Melissa and I are going to be meeting. Melissa and I are going to be meeting. Going to be meeting the 18th. I think it's later on this week.
Oh my goodness!
Wait a second. That's Wednesday. Melissa and I are going to I going to be meeting Wednesday to go over a marketing plan for it. Sure, she's been working with us for years.
Tell her I said hello.
Yes, me too.
Well, I definitely will. Small world. I tell you, gotta watch. Gotta watch out.
She just joined the board of New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
Yeah.
The only woman.
Yeah, that's good.
Very proud of her.
She's a good lady.
We're lucky.
Very good
She
lady.
helps us with the project too, with her oral history class.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about you wrote and conducted infantry command training exercises?
Oh, yeah. We used to. When I joined the reserves, it was what they call the Maneuver Training Command. It was down at Fort Dix, and what their job was, it was a reserve unit. Aside from the support section, it was all senior NCOs and senior and captains and above officers with heavy experience. Is what it was, because the task was to train and evaluate infantry, armor, military units, National Guard and Reserve units, all up and down the Northeast, going from Virginia all the way out to Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, all the way up into Fort Drum, New York, New Jersey, parts of Ohio, Special Forces Group in West Virginia. And what we would do, we would conduct anything from squad to company field exercises. We conduct command post exercises for companies, battalions, and brigades, even divisions. So we would write, conduct, and evaluate the exercises. And I was with the infantry exercise team, and at the time I was a major. I'd just been promoted to major. We had probably about 15 or 18 officers. Every one of them was a Vietnam veteran. We had probably about the same amount of NCOs. Every one of them was a Vietnam veteran. So there was so much combat experience. That's what these units relied on to be able to teach them. I was there actually from 76 probably up until about 80. close to 85 when I got promoted to lieutenant colonel. And I went from, just being an evaluator to being a team chief, then to being the deputy infantry team chief, all the way up to being the infantry team chief. It was a great time because you're really teaching young soldiers how to be better soldiers, and you're teaching young leaders how to be better leaders. From there, I became I was selected for Battalion Command. I commanded a battalion for 3 years up in Woodbridge, New Jersey. It was the 1st Battalion, 78th Infantry Division. And we went down to Fort Dix and Fort Benning. In the 3 years I was there, I spent 2 summers in Dix and 1 summer in Benning. We had drill sergeants. It was a much smaller unit. You had maybe 75 people in the unit, and supposedly you're supposed to have probably about 30 drill sergeants. In most cases, we're lucky if we had 20, because it's pretty tough to get a guy to be a drill sergeant. And we did well. My battalion did pretty well when we were on the missions. The one down at Fort Benning, I enjoyed that one probably the best of all, because they were very tough. And here's a reserve unit coming in to train regular Army soldiers. And what they did, they gave us 2 different weeks that we were responsible for. So I was supposed to have drill sergeants that were going to be preparing young soldiers in their 1st and 2nd week of basic training, and then others in the last 2 weeks of basic training. So I had my drill sergeants. I broke them into 2 groups. I broke them into the bulls and the deers. Now the bulls were the guys that could run, but they were just strong, and they could do push-ups all day long. That's what the 1st and 2nd week of basic training is. It's a lot of push-ups, a lot of PT, some running, but not what they expect at the end of it. And at the end of it, I put all my deer, and these are the guys that I had that used to run half marathons. They were track stars and everything else like this. So when we first got down there, the active always likes to test you to see what you can and you can't do. So you have a standard. And the standard is 8-minute miles. Okay, you got to run 8-minute miles. So you got to run 5 8-minute miles. So 40 minutes you got to run. And so my company commander comes up to me and he says, "What do you want to do, sir?" And I said, "I want you to burn them." And by burning them means I want you to take them out and run as fast as you can, as long as you can. And so I came back in, and I saw the company commander. I said, "How'd you do?" He said, "Well, we didn't make the standard." They blew the standard out. It was supposed to be 40 minutes. They did it in something like 37. And how did it go? He said, we had 4 of them thrown up on the side of the road, which means 4 of the regular Army drill sergeants thrown up on the side of the road. And the battalion commander, who is my counterpart, he goes to me, I understand you may know that you didn't make the standard this morning." He said, "Yeah." He said, "You trying to prove a point, Mike?" I said, "Yeah." He said, you guys did well. And he and I had a great relationship. And what was good about it was that I was going down there, and all these guys were all combat veterans, and I was a combat veteran. But one of the things that really got me in good stead was one of my platoon leaders from Vietnam was now a battalion commander down there. And so he goes, "Mike, how you doing?" So now all of a sudden, now I am accepted, because now I know guys, that were on active duty with me, and they could talk about me, type of thing. Not that he's, a dirtball reservist coming down here who thinks he knows something. This was I had certain creds, which is the good part. Okay. Because whenever you went down there, when a reservist or National Guard guy saw an active duty guy, the active duty guy, the first thing he's looking for is your battle patch. Okay. Next thing he's looking for is see if you got a CIB. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing he looks at is your name. I mean, that's the way it is. It's just, "Hey, how you doing?" And you just see him checking you out. The eyeballs go from there around.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. But it was good, and we did well. And my guys had a good time down there too. But that was one of the things that I enjoyed about being a battalion commander. After that, I went back down to the Maneuver Training Command. I got promoted to colonel, and we ran an exercise up in Canada for the 187th Separate Infantry Brigade out of Massachusetts, and this was the things I liked most about my military career is, number one, the 2 infantry companies I had in Vietnam. The second one was what they call the Lanes Brigade. I'll mention that in a minute. And the third was Gagetown. And Gagetown was a Canadian Forces base. We literally put together an RTEP, Army Training and Evaluation Program, for 5,000 reservists on this area that was 8 miles by 5 miles in 1 week. Totally interrelated, that we knew where every unit was going to be every half hour. I had 110 evaluators working for me, and these guys are calling into my headquarters every 30 minutes exactly where they were, so we could pinpoint every unit, because everything had to be synchronized, simply because of all the units, all the moving parts that were going together, so that one moving part supports the other but doesn't disturb what's going on. And it worked out exceptionally well. It was just a great time, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And just some good people. I put my headquarters. I hated the guys on top coming out and giving you guidance. So up in Gagetown, I guess there was St. John's was the biggest big town, and then was the highway going down, and Gagetown was there. So what we did, I found a place that was took 40 minutes by Humvee to get to, or maybe 10 minutes by helicopter. So the only quick way in was to come in by helicopter. So we just buried ourselves out there in the woods, and people just left us alone. It was good. We were able to get done what we were going to get done. We didn't have too many high-ranking visitors, and the people. We did our job, which is what it boiled down to. And then after that, I ended up being a brigade commander with the Lanes Brigade. And this came about after Desert Storm. They found out that during Desert Storm, the reserves could do their MOS training. The engineers could do all the could move stuff, everything else that had to get done. The transportation guys could move trucks and do whatever had to get done. But they were significantly short on combat skills. So apparently Gordon Sullivan, who was the chief of staff of the Army at the time, the 4-star, he told the 1st Army commander, 3-star, Lieutenant General Jimmy Johnson, he said, I want you to take charge of lanes training. I want you to set up training to teach the reserves how to fight, from the basics all the way up through in unit training. And Johnson assigned it to our division commander, a guy by the name of Ted Crowley at the time, and Crowley picked me to lead the brigade and to get the people I wanted. And I was very lucky. I was able to pick about 90% of the people I wanted. He said, I'm going to give you 10% because I got to give them someplace. And he said, you're going to have to handle them. But he said, 90% of the people you want, you're going to get. And I was very lucky. I was able to, the word went out, Ruane's looking for guys. And all of a sudden, we just had one hell of a year and a half experience. We were doing 2-3 weekends a month. When we actually got into the training mode of it, it was, they say 2 weeks annual training. We had guys doing 2 months training. And it was the prototype of what we did, and it was high visibility. We had one thing down at Dick's. We had some generals coming in to see what we were doing. It was 2 4-star generals, and then we had a Bluebird bus, like a school bus, filled with 22 1- and 2-star generals, and just to observe what we were doing. And we had to be doing something right, because in the beginning, when I first met General Johnson, and I was briefing him as what we're going to do. Okay, Colonel Ruane, what are you going to tell me now? Okay. 3 months later, I'm sitting up in the back of a classroom up at Fort Drum, New York. I just come in out of the field. We'd just done a thing, and I got crap all over me, and dirty and muddy and everything else like this. And the brigade commander is briefing Johnson as to what went on. And Johnson, I'm just sitting in the back of the room with one of my guys, and Johnson just leans over, "Hey, Mike, does that sound good to you?" So all of a sudden, we realized that we had a certain amount of credibility with this guy, you know, so that worked out pretty well. But that was like the culmination of, we finished that off in July of '93, and then we had the closing of the Lanes Brigade, you know, casing of the colors, and then I retired. But the Lanes concept, I have 2 sons right now that are in the New Jersey National Guard. Both of them are infantry company commanders, and they're still doing the lanes. So that the concept has lasted right now, going on almost 30 years. So that was pretty good.
So you retired then, and as a reservist, you were already living the civilian life. But what was it like finally being out of uniform?
Missed it. Oh God, I'll tell you, I was 50 years old. I was in probably some of the best physical shape I was in my life. But the thing, yeah, and still loved it, still had a passion for it. But, you know, they said, hey, 30 years and that's it, 30 years commission time, and that was it. Yeah, but I really, really missed it. I missed wearing the uniform.
How did it feel earlier when you chose to leave the Army?
I was angry. It really was. I was angry at the Army because they told me one thing and then they turned around and told me another. And I know when you're working, with the big green machine, they're going to tell you what to do and when to do, and that's what you got to do. But it was a matter of family. And at that time, I already had one son. Didn't know if I was going to come back to, and hadn't seen him grow up in the year that I was gone.
Right.
And my wife was pregnant again. My second son was born in May of 68. And I did not want to go back over at that time. And I was willing to go back over any time after that, within the 2 years that they told me about, but not 1 year. But it was, I missed it. That was one of the, I joined the reserves. I was in the reserves for about 7 months, and it wasn't the same thing. I didn't have the same love for it. And I got out, and then when I spoke to Joe Graney that time, I was telling you, I was over in, believe it or not, it was in Junction Liquors in Belford, New Jersey. I was in there picking up some wine for a party or something, and I ran into this guy. And, hey, how are you? We just happened to be talking while we were there. Next thing you know, I'm down in Red Bank, New Jersey, signing up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'd like to thank your granddaughter who attended Morristown High School for having you speak at our school, because that's the reason that we got so much of your bio. There was an article about you. All you have to do is Google you, and it came up.
Wow, that I didn't know.
It was like almost like a memoir. It's from October 2014.
Thank you. Lord above. Oh, this was out there.
Is that Kira, her name? Is her name Kira?
Yeah, Kira.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So besides your reunions, are you involved in any other veterans groups?
Well, with the 196 Light Infantry Brigade Association, so I'm involved with them. VFW 1838 down here in Manasquan.
Okay.
I'm a little bit of an active member with them. I belong to the Military Order of Purple Heart. I support them. I don't get to many of the meetings. Is what it boils down to. I'm like a life member of the AmeriCal Division. I'm a life member of the 4th and 31st Infantry Association. 4th and 31st is probably do more with them than I do with many of the others. But like we do a lot of military and veteran stuff over at Camp Evans. So I have been involved with that. And also when I was at Fort Monmouth, I was running all the veterans events over there for years, for 20 some odd years.
How'd you end up at Camp Evans?
Guess what? In 1995, it was right after the base realignment closure, the 1993 BRAC event. and Camp Evans was one of the slots that was going to be closed.
All right.
So there was a guy by the name of Dave Dixon who was the base transition coordinator, and he was leaving. So they were looking for someone to become the base transition coordinator. And the BTC, he was like part of the three-legged stool. One part was base environmental coordinator, was a clean up Camp Evans. The other one was the BRAC team, which is get the Army out of Camp Evans. And then it was me, the BTC, get rid of Camp Evans. So I was like the liaison with the civilian community to try and, or ombudsman to try and get the...
Redevelop it?
To get it transferred over to the civilian community, yes. Not so much in the redevelopment process itself, but get it transferred over so it could be redeveloped.
Oh, I see.
So that was my position. So I got involved with it down there until I retired out of civil service in 2000, and then I became part of the board of trustees for InfoAge, mm-hmm. And in 2005 I became chairman of the board of InfoAge. So I've been involved literally for the past 24 years. Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, pretty close to it, Bill. Yeah.
You like to stay busy.
Huh?
You like to stay busy.
I do. Yeah, you know, it's a great thing. There's so much history that was there. You know, Camp Evans is a site. It's different from, you know, George Washington slept here. Oh, fine, he slept there for one night in one house in some place. This place has been there for 100 years, since Marconi.
Right.
Guillermo Marconi. Okay, the first of the wireless events, because he was trying to put a wireless web around the world. World War I came along, the Navy took over. Okay, then you had, after World War I, RCA started there. A lot of people don't know, with David Sarnoff and the others. Mm-hmm. And then part of the history some people don't want to talk about, but it's not revisionist. We don't revise any history. The KKK bought the property, and they went bankrupt. They got rid of the property in, I guess, 1935, 1936. And then you had King's Christian College come in. I thought that was very apropos. You know, KKK, and then all of a sudden it became the
right.
Christian College. And then in 41, the Army took over. And then everything that developed from there, I mean, radar, the first radio astronomy, the first signal bounces off the moon and comes back. Project Tyros, which is the first meteorological satellite, was developed there. Diana's bouncing off the moon. Project SCORE was the first satellite communications. Mm-hmm. So there's so many firsts there, you know, all over the years, and the stuff that was developed there, like Joint Stars and Guardrail. These are two Army systems. They're still being used. I mean, in Desert Storm, remember they were talking about the road, the highway of death? Yeah. Yep. That was picked up by Joint Stars. And Joint Stars was a radar that could reach into bad guy territory like a couple hundred miles and tell you what trucks are moving and what's going on here, there, and every place. And it was a prime target for the bad guys to try and shoot down. So it's like a big, not 747, 737, let's say, but it always has at least 4 fighters protecting it, you know, simply because it is so invaluable. But I mean, that's a lot of the stuff that was developed there. So what we're trying to do right now is keep the history alive. It's the only Army facility in Monmouth County. Okay, it was the only Army facility in Monmouth County. So now, not only Evans, but with Fort Monmouth closing, so now we're trying to keep the history of Fort Monmouth alive at the same time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's still fun. It's still fun. Yeah. Hey. Keeps me out of bars.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Let's say with the trains.
Yeah, the same thing with, yeah, yep.
Oh, that's how you got on the
yeah.
other subject. You mentioned coping after Vietnam. Do you want to talk about how you got over the nightmares, or if you went to the VA for anything?
Yeah. After Vietnam, what helped a lot was the National Guard and the Reserves, because we'd meet, with the Guard, it was like, the one weekend and a couple of Thursday nights a month. So after the meetings and so forth, especially down in Red Bank, they had the bar upstairs. So the guys would go up there, you have a couple of beers, talk, and so forth and so on, everybody home. But it was like group therapy, you know, because the guys would be talking. You're talking things out, you know, that's what it was. When I was in the reserves, it was the same thing. We'd be talking things talking things out a couple of times a month. And I know when I retired from the reserves, I was good for maybe a year or so, and then all of a sudden, my wife can tell you. I mean, for a number of years, she would not go to bed with me until about 4 o'clock in the morning because I'd be thrashing all over the place.
Right.
And until I actually not burned myself out, exhausted myself, and I finally got into a deep sleep, and then she could come up and go to bed with no problem. But I ended up calling up a doctor friend of mine, a child therapist, and child psychologist who had helped one of my sons, and I said, "Hey Al, I'm looking for a psychiatrist." I said, "I have to talk to someone." He said, "What about, Mike?" I said, "About Vietnam." He said, "Well, you want to come over?" And he had been a psychiatrist for the Army in Korea, so it was like it was a perfect match. And I went to him for a number of years, about 3 years, and he helped me an awful lot. He helped me apply to the VA, and because I had not applied before that. You know, it was like the old thing. You know, the other guy needs it more than me.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm telling people right now, no, you need it too. I said, don't kid yourself. So anyway, I applied to the VA. I had some more bouts. I ended up, Sean Evers, I don't know if you know Sean Evers or heard about Sean Evers. He's down here in Manasquan. He's a psychiatrist that works a lot with veterans. The state of New Jersey has so that you can go to a psychiatrist for 2 years, free. Okay, the state pays for it. Sean's one of the psychiatrists that they use. Great guy, was never in the Army, never in combat, but he has taken combat veterans back to Vietnam. So he treats an awful lot of them. He did a great job. He did a great job for me to help me. You know, when stuff starts to come up, stuff starts to trigger, I have ways to handle it, you know, ways to work my way through it. Because I'll tell you, I was a little bit crazy at times. I really was. Someone would do something that almost injured one of my kids, and I tried to run people off the road. I'll tell you, that didn't bother me at all at the time. And I was like, whoa, you know, hey, you better go talk to someone. And that's how I ended up going to talk to Al Crass the first time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's important. The VA did not help me that much. Matter of fact, the VA, I remember when I applied for PTSD, Al Crass, he said, apply for PTSD. So I applied for PTSD, and they want me to write it up. So I wrote up my thing. It was 7 pages long, single space type, you know, 8.5 by 11. I went up to East Orange. I ended up talking to a doctor from India, and the reason I'm saying from India because his culture was different than our culture. Mm-hmm. I asked him if I had a 10-minute appointment with him. I asked him if he read my file. He said nobody get to it, and the guy who's waiting behind me, you know, going to be for the next 10 minutes. He's sitting out in the waiting room. So anyway, I talked to him, and about 3 months later, I get the results of my evaluation from a doctor in Maine, one of the VA hospitals in Maine. Had dates wrong, names wrong, everything was wrong. So I appealed it. And I won the appeal. Mm-hmm. And they sent me back up to talk to another doctor. I don't know. You ever hear Sally Wright? Okay, that was another. She was with the 78th Division. She was a psychiatrist with the 78th Division, and she ended up talking to me. Mm-hmm. And I spent 2.5, 3 hours with her, and she gave me the evaluation. Yeah, so that was good. But I tell people now. I mean, even my guys. After I retired from Fort Monmouth, I was a contractor for 11 years in counterterrorism. And Fort Monmouth closed, and I went out to Monmouth County as the executive director for the Aging, Disabilities, and Veteran Services, because I qualified for all three. I was an old aging vet, you know. So anyway, one of the things I did out there, I was in charge of Veteran Service Office, and I realized how fantastic these people are. The VA, if you go to the VA, if I went to the VA and talked to people in the VA, they're going to tell me how to go through the procedure, the process. the county service officers, they take you through the process.
Right.
They will walk you through every bit of it, and they will fight for you like it's going out of style.
It's almost impossible for an individual to do it on their own.
Yeah, and the thing is, and even with the organizations like the VFW, Military Order of Purple Heart, American Legion, they have a lot of guys that are the veteran service officers, but they're not full-time. They don't have the full training. You know, they don't do it on a full-time basis. The group out at Monmouth County right now are exceptional. I have guys, they call me in, and you know, I'll be talking to them and say, I've got someone I want you to talk to. These are guys from Oregon, guys from Massachusetts. When I called Sumolian, and Sumolian was in charge of the county veteran service office when I was there, and now she's my old position as the executive director. And she said, Mike, is this another one of your old friends? Yeah, I'm calling it. All I have is old friends calling it all the time. You know, that need some help, that just need some guidance as to where to go and how to get there. But yeah, it's so important for these guys to get their names in there. Some guys say, well, you know, like I said, I don't need it. Maybe not now. How about 5-10 years down the road?
Right.
Okay, because of it. So 5 or 10 years down the road, who's going to pay for what illness you have? Okay, you're gonna pay for it. Your family's gonna pay for it. The VA should be paying for it. That's why you want to get it on your record. You want to make certain you got a case filed with the VA.
We're talking about Agent Orange related?
Yeah. I tell you, I had prostate cancer. I had diabetes. None of my family had prostate cancer or diabetes before. Okay. Like to say, hey, not saying that it happened, but Agent Orange would have exacerbated it.
Right.
And like one of the things with Agent Orange, we're up at C-Zone. We'd be out in the field 3-4 weeks at a time. Okay, so you're going through uniforms. You're literally sweating your way through uniforms. They drop new uniforms in. You never showered or anything else like this. So what you would do, well, what I did with my guys, we come upon an area where like a B-52 strike had gone through, okay, or where been a bunch of heavy bombs dropped. So you'd be 3 or 4 bomb holes in a row, bomb craters in a row. They'd be filled with water. So one was wash, one was rinse, and the other one was play. You know, and there's nothing like watching a bunch of GIs with a steel pot, an M16, and a pair of boots. That's all they're wearing. And a bunch of guys securing the area. One platoon is washing, rinsing and doing it. But we never really noticed it. There was always a sheen on the water. Like a blue or purple or orange or red. They call it Agent Orange, but there was purple, red, green, blue. I mean, it was all that stuff. Yeah.
The barrels were orange or something like that.
Yeah, but there was just different colors. It was just different colors of it. That's what it boiled down to. Yeah. We had one guy, Bob Murphy, and he's in one of the articles, one of the after action reports I have. When he went over to Vietnam, he had 2 children before he went over. Perfect. When he came back, and his third child, I'll tell you, his third child was so messed up, so disabled in so many ways. And he died like within 5-6 years after that of cancer.
The child did?
The child did, and he died like 10 years after that. And they got, when we get together, and we have a bunch of us to get together maybe every year up at Greg's house, because he's up in Lyme, Connecticut. So we have a bunch that come in from I come in from Jersey, Danny McGowan comes in from Jersey, we got a guy coming in from New Hampshire, another guy coming from Massachusetts, a bunch of us, half a dozen of us. And about 4 years ago, we're sitting down, having a couple of beers, and we figured out we couldn't get a full body together between all of us because of all the different body parts. So, everybody had prostate cancer, who has diabetes, 4 out of 5 had diabetes, this guy has this guy has that, So it's almost every one of my guys that I talk to have prostate cancer. So that's, okay, what are the odds of that?
Right, true.
So that's why it leads me to believe that it really was Agent Orange.
Other than speaking at the high school, do you speak about this anywhere else?
I spoke at the high school. I used to speak a lot.
Like this?
Not insofar as the camera's concerned,
right.
but like speak at Memorial Day events or Veterans Day events. Yeah. Yeah, I used to do it.
About your personal experiences?
No, never got into it that much.
Okay.
Never got into it that much. I just did it because of good therapy for me. Just to talk through parts of it. More than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're very brave.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
No,
Your
it's
courage.
just this is just nice. Now, see this. I'm going to thank you for it because this is therapy for me. Let me tell you, it is.
Good.
I'm just able to talk about it, and I know I talk about it now. It's a little bit easier to talk about it than it was 10 years ago.
Really?
15 years ago. Yeah.
It's incredible. I'm sure it helps too that you go to reunions and keep in touch with them.
It does. And when we first had the reunions, everyone was talking about, about the combat side of it, about this and about that, and the funny part, I mean, literally a lot of funny things. A lot of funny things happen, and we always used to talk about them too. I don't know if I put the camera on for this one, but we had, anyway, the big firefight that we had.
They want the funny things too.
Yeah,
For the Library of Congress.
Well, the big one when we were going into the base camp, we had a new kid, in the unit, and all of a sudden he saw a hole in the ground, and he said bunker, and he takes a grenade and throws it into it. Well, unfortunately, the VC, their latrines,
Oh no.
all over a bunch of guys, man. You should have heard that poor kid. Man, I tell you, did they give him time and a half after that? And this is in the middle of a firefight. This is in the middle of a firefight. Guy throws a grenade down, that's all over. There's just funny stuff, and cool stuff, like I was talking about with the surfboards. The surfboards are cool. Yeah, that was just something different. The Marines left there, and we said, "Hey, thank you very much."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we're able to get the guys swimming. So we're able to get them swimming. Sometimes we're able to get different things for them. So it worked out pretty well. Yeah.
Let them be kids.
Yeah, that's all they were.
Recapture some of
That's all they
their
were.
youth. Yeah.
That's all they were. We had one of the reunions. A guy by the name of Lee Perez. Lee was shot up, I guess November, December '66, and he was coming to the reunion. He was bringing his grandson with him. Now Lee right now is he's in a wheelchair, and his grandson was there. You could tell his grandson loved his grandfather, and we were just talking. And one of the guys turned around and he looked at the grandson. He said, "You see that old son of a bitch right there?" He said, "I remember when that kid was 19 years old, and he had grenades and this and that, and he was the meanest son of a bitch you ever wanted to meet in your life." And he said no one would want to mess with him, and it was right. Here it was, 19-year-old kids just packing ammunition and guns and everything else like this, and no one shooting each other or anything else like that. They were just some amazing young men, amazing young men. It was cool.
Mike, we want to say that we're honored and humbled that you're here today and that you spoke to us of your sacrifice and contribution that you made in service to our country. Thank you,
Thanks.
and God bless you, Mike.
Thanks. Well, I was privileged. to lead them. But shit, I'm kidding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome home, Mike.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thanks, Carol. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Mike was living in Jersey City when he attended Seton Hall University, where he was a member of the ROTC and the Triphibian Guard Club, or military frat. He recruited me into the Trifibs when I was a freshman. He was apparently commissioned as an armor officer, but somehow ended up as an infantry company commander in the 196th Light Infantry Brigade at Fort Devens, Massachusetts. The brigade was deployed to Vietnam while I was serving there in the 1st Division Military Police. They were based about 20 miles west of us. The 196th got involved in a major firefight that went into the night, and I was awakened at midnight or so to take a convoy, or an ammo convoy, up to them. I forget the name of the operation. We had a 5-tank escort and were confronted by a blown bridge, but finally got up to Chu Chi to turn the convoy over. Cu Chi. I could see flashes on the horizon, which I assumed was the 196th fighting. What I did not know until I met Mike many years later, he was a company commander in the fight. We were a few miles apart, but did not know it at the time. And that is from Joe Gogan.
Thank you.